Welcome to Motivational Monday. This is Fed Zach, Senior Trading Strategist here at CMTrading. And today, I'd like to share with you the best piece of advice I've ever received over 35 years ago. But before we start, make sure to like, subscribe, and do share, especially if you find value in this presentation. So here I am, about 16, 17 years old. I'm transitioning between high school and university. And I was looking already at a very young age to have exposure to the corporate world. Now, I was very limited, and especially at that age, you're very limited because most corporate cultures are not looking to hire 16, 17 years old. And generally speaking, they look for an intern in university. And I had some family friends, and I had an older friend in the community that I actually pitched to, and we spoke about it a couple of times, went back and forth. And he pitched for me to work for them over the summer. So he was part of a family business that his father owned the business. There were a couple of businesses that they owned, including a real estate business that they held some properties in New York City, both commercial and residential. And they also did property management to them. Now, simultaneously, they also had a gallery business in their main office where they sold and they traded in fine art. So it was really a very unique opportunity for me to participate in, especially coming out of absolutely no experience in any kind of corporate structure. Now, I wouldn't say it was a really strict and structured corporate culture because after all, it was a family business. So there was a lot of communication between all levels. And I was really lucky to have been exposed to the father who was the patriarch of the business. And really, they had that type of relationship. Like he was, almost if you could call it the godfather. Whatever he said, that went. And especially if he got very angry about something or got angry about something, I never saw him get very angry about something, things were done pronto. And he was a very kind man and really a very generous man, but a very strict businessman. When it came to business, he was very, very strict. But in the many interchanges that I had with him, and he had actually been friendly with my dad at one point. So it was an interesting dynamics speaking to him. And I'll never forget this. At one time, I'm actually commuting back home with him in his limo. So we're sitting back in the limo, and it's a really surreal experience because you're all 16 years old and you're piggybacking on this person's exposure and their success just by being in association with them. And one of the most iconic things he said, and it still resonates with me today, is that he said, you should have the experience that your father has, but the energy that you have at your age. And he said, but this is the irony of it, right? You can't go on in life unless you've experienced certain experiences. And once you get more experience, you become much more confident because you've been there before, and you get smarter and you get wisdom, and that all takes time. And then as a result of it, we get older, right? So if you're pushing 50 or 60, you're not there anymore physically to do the same things that you were in your 20s and 30s. And that's the irony of it, because once you get to the point that you could really be good at something, I don't want to say too old, but you're older, and your energy levels are much more diminished in order to sustain that type of output that a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old can do. So it's an interesting dynamics, and having looked for work at a certain point in my life at 40 years old, I remember actually the interviewer saying, I don't think I'm going to hire somebody who's 40 years old to do this type of work. I expect someone who's 20 and 30. And that was my first experience of having somebody actually say that to me. And unfortunately, or fortunately, that job didn't work out, and I moved on and I did some other things. But the point of this all is that if you want to get good at something, you got to fast forward it. You've got to just experience it much faster. And that's the only way to do it. Because if you want to still stay young and still stay in the game and be productive and also be competitive in the work environment, you've got to sustain that energy level. And at 20 and 30s, you can do that, right? Once you get into your 50s, 60s, it's much more difficult to do that, right? Especially in the mid 50s. So with that said, the way to combat that, the way to overcome that is to really fast forward, to fail forward faster. And the only way you can do that is to expose yourself more and more to experiences. Now, you know, I have a 17-year-old son, and he's going through certain transitions, and he's looking to do certain things. And anything he says he wants to do, I say, go ahead, do it. Do it. Have the most experiences that you could possibly have. Because the more you expose yourself to different things and different categories of things, the more you could then decide what you want to do and what you can add value to it. And I think that that's a really very, very important lesson. And this lesson that my friend's father gave me that is over 35 years ago, I still apply to it today. Because I still say to myself, you know, I'm not 70 years old. I still have energy, I still have experiences, and I'm at a very good time in my lifetime to really take advantage of all parts of it. The experiences that I do have, my energy level that I have now, and also the advantage of saying, okay, what are my goals in the next 5 to 10 years, and where do I want to be? So to do that at any stage of your life just takes a little bit of focus. And when you focus at that period of life for what you want to gain, you become that much more effective, not for yourself, but for the people surrounding, not only for your family, but for your industry and for your community as well. And I think that that's really a very important lesson that I learned as a younger guy, okay, as a 16, 17 years old, that I've implemented over my life. And it's really something that I've focused on. And, you know, this is a piece of advice that I received at 16, 17 years old, but it still resonates me to today. And I wanted to share it with you because I think everybody on their level, whatever you're doing, is that the more exposure that you can get and the faster you can get at that exposure and the faster you can learn, the better you could be for yourself at a younger age so that you bank on it. Thank you for joining me for Motivational Mondays. We'll see you here next week.